Welcome back, everyone. Part 2 of Canberra Day Makeup for Strategic Marketing. So where we left off was going through meaning of competition. We've covered the theory of competition. We've looked at how you should classify competitors. And we've also discussed and looked at the intensity or degree of competition. So this part of the lecture is going to cover competitive intelligence, seeking competitive advantage, ethics and sustainable competitive advantage, sustaining competitive advantage, get a theme here, and we'll now start going through the slides. We've only got 21 to go. Okay, so factors contributing to competitive rivalry. Now, each of these factors here can contribute to how competitive we'll find an industry and how much competition we'll have from those people within the industry. So each of these here can be applied within context to an industry. Go through each one, think about an industry example, for example, the airline industry, and you'll see how each of these apply to understanding the rivalry which exists within that industry. A couple promotions here to look at. Firstly, there's Adidas. You can click on the link, and this one here for Nike as well. Again, just click on that link and you can look at each one in your own time. And then when you finish, come back and complete this question, which is based on the previous two ads, discuss Adidas' competitive position and how it differentiates against Nike. What should Nike's strategic position be? So we've got a couple of questions there to look at. Again, in an exam scenario, good question to look at and answer. Maybe give yourself 20 minutes to answer this question. Write a few things out on paper, go through your answer and see how well you've done compared to looking at the video. Maybe compare your answer as well to other people in the classroom. All right, so now I've distracted you by making you go and look at YouTube. Hopefully you're still around and looking at me via YouTube. We'll now move on to understanding competitive intelligence. Now, competitive intelligence is the publicly available information on competitors, current and potential, that serves as an important input in formulating marketing strategy. So, understand that a bit more. It includes information beyond industry statistics and trade gossip. It involves close observation of competitors to learn what they do best and why and where they are weak. Survival of the fittest again. So, 3 types of competitive intelligence, and it would be good for you guys to understand these ones. Defensive intelligence, passive intelligence, and offensive intelligence. Mark them down as ones to learn and understand how we get intelligence on our competitors. Here's an example using Ford Motor Company on their competitive product teardown process and what they may do and how they may analyze their competitors. All right, so competition knowledge checklist. A lot of questions here to go through. But basically, what you need to have here with a checklist is a way to run through a method of ensuring that you've covered all possible avenues and understood how strong or weak your competitors are in the market. So this is really a critical analysis and critical assessment of competitors in the industry and what knowledge you have about them. As they say, knowledge is power, so you need to understand how your competitors think, behave, and react. So this is part of the way of doing it, is to form a checklist to make sure you've covered all possible avenues. Getting competitive intelligence, lots of ways. Of course, the textbook will only cover what are the legit ways, but in the world of today, there are also people who be very, very sneaky by corporate espionage, which is a huge issue in most companies, try and protect their information on computer systems. Is where we see a lot of hacking actually done is on businesses, not just consumers. So the book, though, however, talks about just ways to get competitive information. So one way is, of course, analysis, is recognizing key competitors, market segments in which the company is active. That's a pretty simple process. Analyzing the performance record of each competitor, that can be hard, depends upon the information available to each competitor in the industry. You can study how satisfied each competitor is with its performance. So, for example, do they change CEO a lot? Do they have a very stable company? do people work for that company for a very long time? They're all signs of how satisfied the company is with its own performance. You can probe each competitor's marketing strategy. You can, in other words, look at their marketing strategy and say, where are they weak? Where have they recognized they are weak themselves and can't fix it up at the moment? You can't do everything in the business world, so companies will look to maybe protect their strong positions and let the weak go off to niche operators if they can, with a view of getting them back in the future. You can analyze competitors' current and future resources and competencies. You can predict the future marketing strategy of each competitor. Now, again, that's getting into the realm of how good you are as a marketer. So hence why knowing more also gives you power on understanding predictive possibilities of competitors. You can also assess the impact of competitive strategy on the product and the market. And these are all different ways of gathering information. 3 sources of competitive intelligence, though, are what competitors say about themselves. So reading the business press and news releases become commonplace to you. What others say about them, including stakeholders of all sorts of descriptions, from customers and suppliers and other people, and what employees of the firm engaged in competitive analysis have observed and learned about competitors. There are some people who do this day in, day out for a living, is analysing other companies, and they become masters at it and can predict and read competitive behaviour quite easily and accurately. It could be you one day. So again, going through where we get this information from, it's not just the internet. Google is your friend, yes, but again, you may have to rely upon market research via public information, through trade professionals, and also government reports, investor reports. These are all very, very important information sources about understanding competitive behaviour and getting knowledge about your competitors. Okay, so methods for collecting information on competitors. Now, there's different methods you can do. Forbes has, there was an article on Forbes which identified 7 groups of techniques to keep tabs on the competition by gathering information. Again, it covers what we've covered, some of the earlier points we've just looked at. So you can look at recruits and employees of competing companies, competitors' customers, infiltrating customers' business operations. So maybe having someone on the inside who might talk to you a bit more openly about how they see a competitor. Published materials and public documents, in other words, open source material, as they call it nowadays in the internet age. Government agencies, it says here the Freedom of Information Act, but also think about just common government reports. Things like Senate inquiries or committees also have good information about companies sometimes. You can observe competitors or by analyse their physical evidence. So you can observe the competitors through different methods and different means. Competitors' garbage, wow, you know, that's really digging down a little bit too far. I'm not too sure you want to do that in this day and age. You may find things in the garbage, of course, which you may not want to really have. I wouldn't be going that far, to be honest. Some people do, but to be honest, I don't think I would be. Okay, industry dynamics. Now, understanding dynamics of an industry can also help understand how competitors may behave and react, and how the industry is structured and dominated by particular firms or organisations. So, look at the scope of competitors' businesses. Do they have 1, 2, or 3? Sometimes they might own different companies and different operations, which are, of course, going after different target markets. So it gives them a very wide scope within that industry to target different consumers. New entrants in the industry, how they might be reacted to, what do they do when a new entrant comes in? Does everyone sit around and watch and see, or do they just attack them, leap on them and try and kick them out as soon as possible from the industry? Other current and potential offerings that serve similar functions. So looking at other offerings which might be in the market, which might be very similar, so substitution, for example, or even indirect competitors. Looking at the industry's ability to raise capital, attract people, avoid government probing, and compete for consumer dollars. This is all important to understanding the dynamic of an industry. And of course, let's not forget the industry's current practices, what they might benchmark against already, and any potential trends in volume, cost, pricing, or ROI, return on investment, are all important attributes of understanding the dynamics of an industry. Okay, the list goes on. The textbook goes in a lot of detail here. You can also look at industry profit economics. You can look at the ease of entry into the industry as well. You can look at the relationship between current and future demand and manufacturing capacity and effect on prices and profits, effects on integration, effects of any cyclical swings in the relationship between supply and demand. So, for example, Australia is becoming a commodity-based economy. So, in other words, if the iron ore price goes up, we're all rich. If it goes down, we're all going to be in a recession. So that's put in a simple context to understand. Now, seeking competitive advantage. There are ground rules if you want to get a competitive advantage. Firstly, position the firm so that its capabilities provide the best defense against the existing array of competitive forces. In other words, make sure you can defend yourself. That's the main thing. Give yourself a secure fortress and get ready to defend yourself against anyone who may want to take your fortress from you. You can influence the balance of forces through strategic moves. For example, you can make a move in a certain direction, get people running after you there, which could give you time, resources, and opportunity to protect your main offering and your main market strength. And you can also anticipate the shifts and factors underlying the forces and respond to them, hopefully exploiting change by choosing a strategy suited to the new competitive balance before rivals recognize it. In other words, if you can see a trend coming, you can ride that trend at the very beginning, hence why market research is now also very important. Then it gives you a good opportunity to build a big fortress, which is very, very hard for other people to try and take back off you or from you in any way, shape, or form. So these are some of the ground rules for seeking competitive advantage. Again, you can look at Porter's model of industry competition to reinforce some of the ways you can maybe act in an industry, some of the potential strategy moves and plays you could make. For those people who love this 5 forces model, you can see it here. It's a good slide overview of Porter's model of industry competition. Have a look at it. You don't need to learn it off by heart, but I would recommend though you do learn Porter's model of industry competition, considering how influential it is as a business model in this day and age. And here's a nice example of using Porter's to a practical case study, which everyone can relate to. Blue jeans. Everyone's wearing blue jeans. All right, that's enough singing for now, but have a look at this example instead. Go over how this has been applied by Porter's model, and it should give you an understanding of how useful a model like that can be in a practical situation in certain contexts, of course. Okay, now the business system of a manufacturing company also lets you know ways you can create a sustainable competitive advantage, ways you can build up a competitive advantage based on one of these functions of the organization, from the technology to marketing and of course even to service and distribution of a product. So they're all different ways you can look at getting a competitive advantage. Using that then to leverage in the business system itself. So economic leverage means things like economies of scale, looking at ways you can maximize the value being provided in the supply chain, but also looking at ways you can then add value in the eyes of the consumer. And here's another good case study the book covers, which is in this case photocopiers. Photocopiers as loved by minions everywhere. This is a plain paper copier strategy. This is Xerox versus 7. And you can have a look here. It's an American case study, but still, again, look at these sort of case studies, a way of understanding this theory and practice. And it is a good one to look at in terms of modern analysis. Okay, now there's some strategies for sustaining competitive advantage. We've got umbrella and barrier here. So the barrier is high, the umbrella low. We have a protected way of looking at sustaining competitive advantage. Again, barrier might be high and umbrella factor might be high as well. So umbrella's up very, very high. This is specialty at risk. So use this to understand. It's a matrix approach. Use it to understand some very simple strategies you could use for sustaining competitive advantage. All right, well, hopefully that was lots of fun. It's my first try doing a lecture like this for you guys. I'm hoping you enjoyed it. I'll be doing some more for the rest of the time I'm teaching this semester, and any updates on things like Stu Kent, which I'll be sitting down and going through this afternoon. By the time you watch this afternoon could be weeks ago. Anyway, that's it from me here in the studio and recording booth at ANU. Looking forward to seeing you all again next time. Goodbye for now.